Okay, I'm going to dive in here. So welcome to week number 2 of our weekly workshop series, and to the recording if you're listening to this after the fact. So today we're going to delve into some advanced features of the exercise environment, and then some advanced features of the cyber range exercise environment. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about the various exercises and exercise environments that you can get access to, just to describe a little bit about what they are, and then make sure folks understand how to get more detailed information on the different things that you can provision for your students in the range. And I'll start here with a little commercial on the weekly workshops. Again, the idea here is to cover a list of different different cybersecurity topics, including the Virginia Cyber Range, but not exclusive to the Virginia Cyber Range. So you know, when it's appropriate to talk about new features or additional enhancements or those kinds of things, then we'll do that. But this is more about cybersecurity in general and helping educators sort of find more resources that they can use to teach their students. We'll do this weekly on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. For now, until we decide that 1 p.m. on Tuesday is not a good time, and if there's a better time, then we'd like to hear about it. And of course, we record these so that you can come back and watch them later on. And if you have a particular topic that you would like to hear about, then absolutely bring it up, and I'd be happy to talk about it during one of these workshops. So one thing I like to do in class, and I generally do this at the beginning of every class that I teach, is I like to talk about recent news, and recent technology news, and I sort of focus on cybersecurity news. And this is sort of an interesting article out of Wired magazine. I guess the byline is yesterday, so 10th of September 2018. And this is about a group of Belgian security researchers who were able to crack the security on the Tesla Model S key fobs. And so the key fob is the thing that you push the button on and it makes your doors unlock, right? So it's the thing you carry around in your pocket. Most cars have them these days, and it's the remote unlock the doors. And so the way that system works is, you know, most folks think that that's sort of a one-way communication, right? Where you push a button and there's a radio transmitter on the fob and there's a receiver in the car, and that's certainly the case. But it's also the fob is not only a transmitter; it's also a receiver. So if you have a key fob in your pocket, that thing is able to receive radio transmissions, and so when you click the key fob to open the car door, what that does is it sends a signal to the car, and that signal is responded to, and there's this cryptographic key that's used to negotiate the opening of the car door. And it sounds fairly complicated, and it is fairly complicated, and it should be fairly complicated, because if it weren't for that cryptographic handshake between the key fob and the car, then anybody could just eavesdrop on you clicking the button on your key fob and then replay that to your car anytime and open the door anytime they want. And that's not how it works, right? Somebody can't. That's not a thing. You can't do that. There are some attacks on key fobs where somebody can trick your key fob into sending a signal that person can then send to your car to open it one time. Those attacks have been sort of shown by researchers, but not necessarily observed in the wild. This particular attack, these researchers were able to show that they could, because of the insecurity of the cryptography used on the model, this Tesla Model S key fob, they were basically able to crack the security on this thing and create this big table of possible security codes for different types for different vehicles, and then they could if they could get close enough to both the key fob in question and the car that they wanted to unlock, they could send a signal to the key fob, and then once the car sent a signal back, then they could use that signal to open the car. And in this particular attack, they were able to show that they were able to do it over and over once they read the signal from the key fob that corresponded to a particular car. So it's kind of a bad thing, right? You don't want people to be able to do this, even though they have to have very close physical proximity to both the key fob and the car to make this work. You certainly don't want this kind of thing to work. And so the researchers reported the flaw to Tesla through Tesla's bug bounty program. So bug bounties are these programs that lots of technology companies have, wherein if a security researcher reports to them a security vulnerability, that is no kidding a real vulnerability, then the company will pay the researcher, and then they'll turn around and fix the vulnerability. And the motivation here is that the tech company would rather that people disclose vulnerabilities to them rather than sell those vulnerabilities to hackers on the black market, and that's what happens a lot with this kind of stuff. So the security researchers, so they're going to report their findings in a paper this coming week. But they informed Tesla of this months ago, and Tesla paid I don't know, $10,000 or something for the bug bounty, and Tesla has fixed the problem in all of their cars built this June or later, right? So any Tesla Model S that was sold after June, this vulnerability is no longer there. But for older Tesla Model S owners, this vulnerability is present unless they've patched it. So what the car owner can do is they can take their car to their Tesla dealer, get a new key fob, and have their car patched, right? So now we have to patch our car. Now we can't just patch our computers and our phones. Now we got to patch our cars when there's a security vulnerability. So that's kind of an interesting upshot of all this. A couple of other interesting things about this story. So the key fob system is not something that Tesla designed or produced. It was provided by a third-party manufacturer who also provides similar key fob systems to other vehicle manufacturers. So this may not just be a Tesla problem; it may be a wider scale problem. And it's also the case that this was not a mistake on the part of Tesla, other than they didn't do a very good job of validating the work of their subcontractor, right? The third party who created this key fob system. So that's the case in many security breaches, is that the company who got breached didn't necessarily cause the problem, but the problem was caused by some third party. One good example of that is the Target breach that folks have probably heard of from 3-4 years ago, where the Target point of sale systems got hacked, and many hundreds of thousands of credit card numbers and personal information got disclosed. And the reason that Target got hacked was not because Target had a security problem. It was because a third-party vendor who was doing some work on HVAC, the air handlers for a Target store, had access to IT systems so that they could turn on and off the HVAC system to test repairs that they were making, and they disclosed the credentials to employees, and later those credentials were used to hack through the HVAC system into the Target backend, and these credentials were able to get exploited. Okay, so this is a situation where Target, the mistake that Target made was that they didn't vet their HVAC vendor very well. And of course, they should have turned off access that the vendor had after the vendor was doing the repairs, finished doing the repairs, which Target didn't do. But still, this wasn't a vulnerability in Target's network, other than that they used a third-party vendor that maybe they shouldn't have used. Okay, so onto the agenda for this week. Some things that we're going to cover. I got some. All right, I had some people that were in this waiting room that I just admitted. So for those just joining, welcome. Sorry for the delay in getting you admitted. I was talking about something else, but you didn't miss much. I just covered a little bit of technology news. If you're interested, I'm not going to cover it again, but I would encourage you to take a look at this story that's on the wired.com website. It's about a hack on Tesla Model S sedans due to some cryptographic insecurities in the key fobs that are used to unlock the doors. So on to the week 2 agenda. So again, we're going to talk about some advanced features of the exercise area. So last week I went very quickly through things like how to create an exercise environment for your students, how to enroll students in your course. You know, it's kind of the basics of getting started in the exercise area. So this week I'm going to just spend a little bit more time talking about how you navigate the interface in the exercise area, how to request a new course. I'll go through that whole process of requesting a new course. So our old process for requesting a course was you went to the virginiacyberrange.org website, and then you went to a page within that, and you put in the name of your course and your name and email address, and et cetera, and then that basically sent a message to our ticketing system, and somebody would pick it up, and we would vet the request, and we would create your course for you. And that was kind of a slow process just because it had to make multiple hops. And now we've replaced that process with a way that you can request a course from the exercise area itself. And the advantage of that is that we know that you're a valid user already if you're making a request from within the exercise area. So we don't have to go back and vet you and make sure that you're an authorized user before approving the course. So it streamlines things considerably. The other way it makes it easy for us is we just click the approve button, and we don't have to you know, create the new course and then invite you into the course, and et cetera, et cetera. So I'll show you that process and what it looks like from the point of view of the instructor. And then I will talk about invitation codes. I think I mentioned that briefly last week, but I'm going to show you how that works. So how to get students into the course using invitation codes. I'll show you how to modify your course, so you can actually modify the title of your course, the description of your course, and then we'll delve into the users page a little bit. So I'll talk about how to track whether your students have accepted their course invitations or not, how to delete students, how to resend invitations to students if they missed them, how to manage teams, etc. I'll talk about the exercise environments page. So what you can do in there, like modify the environment or the description of the exercise. You can track how much time your students have spent in the exercise environment. And then if a student is having a problem with their environment, I'll show you how you can reset the exercise environment. And then we'll talk a little bit about the exercise environments themselves, the ones that are available to you to provision to your students. And most of that will be about showing you how you can get more information about the exercise environments. You know, I think most high school educators, sort of, you know, teaching entry-level cybersecurity, are gonna focus on a couple of specific exercise environments. But for those who are teaching more advanced topics, or who are going to be teaching advanced topics in the future, we have some more robust kinds of environments that you can use, and I'll talk about what those look like. Okay, so I'm gonna drop my PowerPoint slides here, and I'm going to dive in. So I'm gonna join the exercise area as a teacher. Okay, so I just logged in to so I went to console.virginiacyberrange.net, and I logged in using my OpenID provider, and this is the screen that I get, right? So I'm an instructor, and I see a button up at the top that says courses. And so if I have multiple courses, when I click that button, I always come back to the screen where I can see the courses that I have in the range. And in this case, I have this BHS 6302 Cybersecurity Fundamentals course with a few students in it. And then I have Virginia Cyber Ed Conference CTF tools with a whole bunch of users in it. This was a course I used during the conference that we held a couple of weeks ago at JMU. Okay, so on any page in the exercise area that you go to, up in the upper right hand corner, there's a context sensitive menu of things that you can do from this particular page, right? So on this exercise, or on this courses page, the only thing I can do is I can request a new course to be created. You know, if I go into one of these courses, so now I just clicked on the BHS 6302 Cybersecurity Fundamentals course. Now my menu changes, my context sensitive menu changes, and I can do some different things, like I can edit the course, I can add exercise environments to the course, or I can manage the users in the course. And then when I go into those different pages, like here's the users page, now my context sensitive menu changes again. So now I can manage invitation codes, I can invite a user to the course, or I can add a team to the course. And I'll talk about these features on the user page in a few minutes. What I also have at the top of the screen here is I have my breadcrumb trail menu, right? So this shows where I am in the exercise environment. And so I'm inside my courses / BHS 6302 Cybersecurity Fundamentals / and I'm in the users page. So if I click on the Cybersecurity Fundamentals breadcrumb, then I come back to the course page, and now I can do things like, I can click the edit this course link button, for example. And if I click on one of the exercise environments, my breadcrumb trail changes again, right? So I'm inside courses / BHS 6002 / environment cyber basics 2018. So this just shows you where you are in the exercise environment of the different stuff that you have there. And if I go to courses, this pulls me all the way out. And then the final feature I'll mention as I navigate the interface for the exercise area is up in the very top right corner, I have my user account menu. So if I click there, I get my my name and the email address that I use to get access to the exercise area. I have a little icon. I don't know, maybe someday we'll let you upload a picture there. We haven't quite gotten that far yet. And then there are 3 buttons here. So as an instructor, I can either go to the knowledge base. Again, the knowledge base has frequently asked questions. It's got some information to help you get started, right? So so here's getting an instructor account and creating your first course. And this is a new article that we just created recently. So if I click in there, I get information about how to get my instructor account and how to create my first course or request that my first course be created. And this knowledge base has a similar breadcrumb trail here up in the upper left corner. Another new or updated article that we added to the Getting Started page is the Student Quick Start Guide. So if you click there, this goes through a student's accepting of their course invitation email, and then it shows them how to log in to the range for the first time, how to select their course, how to select the exercise, how to start their virtual machines, and then how to join that particular exercise environment so that they can do their hands-on exercise. And then it shows them, sort of step-by-step how to turn off their pop-up blocker and then how to log in to the virtual machine. So if you are teaching students and you want to be able to point them to a quick start guide that just walks them through the process of getting access, so it's, for some students it's pretty intuitive to go through this process, but for others they need a little bit extra help. And so this is a great, the Student Quick Start Guide is a great article to help students figure out what they need to do to get access to their virtual resources in the Virginia Cyber Range exercise area. And then there are some videos in here. Some of these use the old interface, so we've got some updating to do on some of these, but the instructions are essentially the same. The environment just looks a little bit different. We have some troubleshooting articles. So if people are having trouble, my virtual machine performance is sluggish, what should I do? I'm getting an error message, unable to fetch entitlements. That's a problem that we saw in the old interface. I think maybe we don't see that so much in the new interface. We have not receiving the course email invitation. What should I do? Can't log into the Virginia Cyber Range exercise area account. So if a student just can't log in, then there's some help, some things to help them figure out how to do that. And then an article that talks about the different kinds of Virginia Cyber Range accounts and how you get access to them. So some pretty good resources out here in the knowledge base. And then back to my user account menu in the upper right-hand corner here, the knowledge base. The other thing we have is the support button. So if you click support, you put in your topic. Your topic is going to be, it's going to give you a choice of your different course titles. So you put in the topic, you type in a subject, and then you give us a message, whatever problem you're having and you need to get support with, and that goes into our ticketing system, and somebody will reach out to you and help you solve your problem. If a student clicks on that support button, then when they fill out this form, then the email is going to get sent to you as the instructor. So it's important to recognize that the students, if a student fills out a support request, that doesn't come to us, that goes to you. If you can answer their question, great. If not, then you forward it on to us and we can help. But the reason we do that is a lot of the questions are related to, a lot of the questions that students have are related to the exercise itself. Like, you asked me to do this, I'm not sure how to do it, can you help me out? And those are questions that we can't answer, but you can as the instructor. So, so that's why we route student support requests to the instructor instead of to our help system. Okay, so that is pretty much it for the navigating the interface. Now I'm going to go through the process of requesting a new course. And so here I am on the courses page. So me, I'm David Instructor. I have 2 courses, BHS 6302, Cybersecurity Fundamentals, and I have Virginia Cyber Ed Conference, CTF Tools. And let's say I want to, let's say I have 2 different sections of BHS 6302, and I want to have those separate in the range, so that maybe I have 10 students in my period 1 and 10 students in period 2, and I want to have those students in 2 different courses. So what I can do is I can go to the course request button in the upper right hand corner here, and I'll put course name, BHS 6302 Cybersecurity Fundamentals, period 2. Okay, I put in the name of the course, and then I put in a description. Normally I would want the description to be a little bit longer than this, but I don't want to go through typing a big long entry. So so this is all I need to fill in order to confirm this course request. There is a button down here that says Advanced Options. And when I click that, right now the only advanced option that we provide here is we allow you to edit the course invitation email. So this is the email that students get when you invite them into the course, and it says, "Dear username," so that's going to be the student's first name, last name that you use to enroll them. "Welcome to," and then it fills in the course name. "Here's your unique invitation link," and then it posts the invitation link. "Please follow this link to get started. Sincerely," and then this is the name of the organization, which in our case is the Virginia Cyber Range. And so down at the bottom, it shows the different variables that you have access to, so you can so wherever you put double bracket invitation.link double bracket, that's going to be the actual link that they click on to accept the invitation into the range. But if you want to put further instructions in this email to the, if you want more info to your students, maybe you want to put in the link to that knowledge base article I just talked about that helps them walk through the process of accepting their invitation and getting to the course and to the exercise and starting up the environment. This is where you might put it, and then when the student receives the email invitation, it's going to be right there in the email, and might make their life a little bit easier. So that's the one advanced option that we have right now. There's going to be some other advanced options that we add in the future related to the dates, start date and end date for the course, and some other stuff like that. But for now, this is it. Okay, I'm not going to do anything with that. I'm just going to click the confirm button, and so now what will happen is that course will be added to my courses. And so you notice here I have BHS 6302 Cybersecurity Fundamentals. Right next to it, I have BHS 6302 Cybersecurity Fundamentals Period 2. And then on the far right, I have the course that was already there, the CTF Tools course. And so this course is pending approval. And if I click into it, I see status is pending approval. All right, so I can't do anything. I can edit the course, but I can't add students or exercise environments while this course is pending. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go over to another window that you can't see, and I'm going to see if I can't approve the course. Okay, so here's me approving the course, approve, and you can't see that. Okay, so now when I refresh this page, now when that course is approved, I'll receive an email that says that course is approved. And so, if you request a course, you'll receive an email when it's approved, or when you log in. To the exercise environment again, you'll see that the course was approved. Okay, so now I'm going to jump into that course, and we've added some little tool tips here. So here you see the blue box in the upper right-hand corner. It says this course has no exercises. Let's create one. And this is just kind of pointers to help you know what you should do next as you work through getting your course set up. And this process is just as we described it previously, right? I'll come back to this later, but this is where you select an exercise environment. So the next thing I'm going to talk about, so that was the course request process, right? So now this course has been requested, and it's been approved, and it was very quick and easy. It's usually if you request courses through the exercise area interface, they're going to be approved in I don't know, one business day, I hope. Okay, so the next thing on my agenda is enrolling students using course invitation codes. So here I have this course that has no users and no exercise environment. So I'm going to click on the upper right-hand corner on Manage Course Users. And you see that the only user is me, and I'm the instructor. And so, so in the past, what we've done to get students into the courses is we have invited users into the course using an email, using this email system, right? And this is still perfectly functional, still there, still a great way to get your students into the course. Here you can put in first name, last name, and email address, and click confirm, and that's going to send the student an email with a one-time click link that they can click on and get their account set up. Again, if you want to invite multiple users, you can download the CSV template, which is comma separated values, basically just requires first name, last name, email address, and then you go through the process of choosing the file, et cetera, et cetera. And then when you once you finish that little wizard, then all those students will be invited into the course, and life is good, right? So so another way to get students into the course is using an invitation code. And this feature is useful in a couple of contexts. First of all, there are some schools where the students have, they might have an email address associated with their Google Apps for Education tools that they use, Google Classroom, that kind of stuff. But in some schools, those emails are not used actually for email. They'll have an account name, which is essentially an email address, looks like an email address, but it's not really an email address in that the teacher can't send emails to the students. So in the cases where teachers can't send emails to students, it makes this process of sending course invitations a little bit more difficult. Another context where this is useful is if you want to teach a workshop, and I do this sometimes. I'll come into a conference, and I'll have a workshop for a couple of hours, and at the very beginning of the workshop I will use this invitation code method to get I'll create a course, I'll put up the invitation code so that the participants in the workshop can use that code to join the course. And then I give, once they join, you don't want to try to have them log in right away, because whatever exercise environments you've provisioned have to be created for all those new participants in the course. But generally after 15 or 20 minutes, everything's all set up and ready to go, and the participants in the workshop can log in and start using the exercise environments. So those are a couple of reasons why this invitation code process works well. And so I'll show you how to make it work. Here I just clicked the far left button here, and the tooltip says Manage Student Invitation Code for this course. Click on that, and I get this little description: invitation code. This code does not currently have an invitation code. This course does not currently have an invitation code. If you'd like to generate one to allow the students to self-register, click the button below. So here's the Create Invitation Code button. And when I click that, here's the invitation code. And I'm going to copy that. Copy. Bring up Notepad here. Make sure I have it handy for in a few minutes when I actually use it. And so what you can do is you can email that to your students, or you can put it on a slide at the beginning of the workshop, or you can, at the beginning of class, you can put it up so your students can see it, put it on a PowerPoint slide or whatever. And these invitation codes time out, right? So this says this code will remain active until September 18th, 2018 at 1:33 p.m. So they're good for 7 days. And the reason they're good for 7 days is, I suppose it's in the realm of the possible that somebody could take that invitation code and email it to their friend, and then their friend could join the course, and their friend really shouldn't be there. I don't know if that happens a lot in high school where students join courses that they're not in, but you can imagine that happening. So anyway, we time these things out after a week, or once you are confident that you have all your students in the course, then you can click the delete button, and then that invitation code will go away and it won't work anymore. Okay, so now I have an invitation code, and now I'm going to share that with my students. And so I'm going to log out of the exercise area, and I'm going to log back in as a student. There's me, David Student. Okay, and here I am in, I'm a student now, and I'm in these two different courses. Oh, whoops, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm going to log out again. I didn't want to log in. What I wanted to do was I wanted to click on, so again, back to our situation where you're in a workshop and you want your workshop participants to use that invitation code. What you do is so I'm going to open a fresh browser tab here, and I'm going to go to console.virginiacyberrange.net. So if you just tell your students to browse to console.virginiacyberrange.net, they get this login screen. And here I'm assuming that the students don't already have an account in the Virginia Cyber Range, right? So these are new people to the range, either students in your course or students in a workshop. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this Have an Invitation Code button on the bottom left here, right? So this is kind of unobtrusive little button that people generally don't notice, but this is how you use those invitation codes. And so I have this code that I copied earlier to my notepad, and I just pasted that code in, and it's accepted it immediately. And now it says, you are registering for BHS 6302 Cybersecurity Fundamentals Period 2. To finish this registration, please confirm how you'd like to access the course by signing in using one of the following services. So this is just like I clicked that link in the email, right? So as a student, if I click that invitation link, I come to the same window where it says, now I want you to sign in using one of these services, either Google, Facebook, or Azure. So I'm going to sign in with Google, and I'm going to use this student login that I generally use. And now you'll see that in my student account, here I am, David Student. You see that now this course has been added, BHS 6302 Cybersecurity Fundamentals Period 2. So that wasn't here before, now it's here. And it's not really useful because the instructor hasn't provisioned any exercises. but now I, as the student, can get access to it. Okay, so now I'm going to log out, and I'm going to sign in again. This time I'm going to sign in as an instructor, so I'm not a student anymore. I'm back to being an instructor. So that was the course invitation code process. Next thing I'm going to talk about briefly is modifying course parameters. So here I am. I'm David, instructor again, logged in as an instructor. Here's this BHS 6302 course that I just had created. Oh no, let's go back to this one, right? So now I have BHS 6302 Cybersecurity Fundamentals Period 2. Now I want to go back to my original BHS 6302 course. I might want this to say Period 1 at the end. So the way to make that change is I click on the course. So now if I look at my breadcrumb trail, I'm in courses/BHS 6302 Cybersecurity Fundamentals. And if I click on edit this course, now I can change the name of the course by adding Period 1 at the end. So confirm. Okay, now the name of the course has changed. And if I go back to my courses page, I see I have Period 1 and Period 2. And when my students in the Period 1 course log in, they're going to see that corrected name. In the Period 2 course, I can go in and I can click the edit button, and I can maybe lengthen the course description by adding another sentence. Or I can go to the advanced options. So if a course has already been created for you and you want to change what the email says that your students receive when you send an email invitation, you can go down here and you know, add another paragraph to it. Confirm, and now the description's been updated, and if I send out a course invitation email, it's going to be that modified email that I just hacked on. Okay, that was modifying course parameters. Let me dive into the users page. So let me go back out to my course list, and I'm going to click on Cybersecurity Fundamentals Period 1. And so now that I'm in a course, I see that I have a users button up in the upper right, and the tooltip says Manage Course Users. When I click on that, I get some good information about the students in the course. And if you were in the workshop I did last week, I invited all these people into the course, and so now we can see that I have a list of display names for the users. So there's me at the top, David instructor, then I have David student, and then Shane Doe, John Doe, Jane Doe, Don Doe. And I have email addresses for each one of these people. I have the role, so I'm the instructor, the other people are students. If you enroll a TA into your course, you'll see the TA role listed here. And just as a reminder, a TA is a teaching assistant. And a teaching assistant has permissions to do things like invite more people into the course, and maybe provision exercise environments, but they can't delete things, they can't kick people out of the course, you know, they can't change the course title or anything like that. It's just it's so that an instructor can give some added abilities to a teaching assistant, so that the instructor doesn't have to do all the work. They can make their TA do it. And that's what some college professors do, not me. Okay, so and then you have the team. I'll talk about teams in just a second. And then you see there's this column that says log in with, and this shows what the student or TA or instructor, what OpenID provider they used to log in. And that can be helpful if a student, and we've seen this before, if a student says, hey, I'm having trouble logging in, I'm clicking the Facebook login, and I put it in over and over, and so you know, it's just not working for me. And as a teacher, you can look here and you can say, oh, gee, you didn't use Facebook to log in, you used a Google credential. So go back, log in using your Google credential, and and you'll be able to get access, right? So this shows the OpenID provider that the person used to log in. And then there's a column that says pending since, and this is an invitation that has not been accepted, right? So, so this is helpful because this shows you who has not accepted their invitations yet. Each one of these people, the Doe family here, Shane, John, Jane, and Don, none of them have accepted their course invitation. Of course, that's because they're not real people and these email addresses are all bogus. But let's say everybody accepted their course invitation except for John Doe, and John Doe said, well, I must have deleted the email, and so now I can't get into the course. What you can do as the instructor, now I'm going to click on this little gear button on the far left side of the screen, and I have some options here. Now I can re-invite the student. I can move the team. I can move teams. And again, I'll talk about teams here in a second, or I can delete the student. So if I decide that John Doe has dropped my class and I don't need him here anymore, then I can just delete him and confirm, and now John Doe is gone, right? But let's say Shane says, hey, I didn't receive my course invitation email. If I click the re-invite link, what this does it'll basically send the duplicate email, the same as the original email that was sent to that student. And if I click confirm, then a new email is going to go out. It says Shane Doe has been re-invited to the course. And you have to do those one at a time. We don't have a bulk re-invite button, but you can re-invite individual students. Last thing I'll talk about on the users page is this notion of teams. And the team thing is I'll say that it's not very widely used. But you can imagine a scenario where you might want to have multiple students in a team. So you might have a team project and you want to have 2 or 3 students who all have access to the same copy of the exercise environment. And in order to do that, you can move students between teams. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to move Jane Doe into Shane Doe's team. And you can see the team names here. So each student has a team with their name on it. So team Jane Doe. Here I have team Shane Doe. So I'm going to move Jane Doe into team Shane Doe. So if I say move team, here I can select which team, and then I confirm. And now you'll see that both Shane Doe and Jane Doe are in the same team. So they both have access to the same exercise environment. And now you see at the very bottom, I have this team Jane Doe, and there's nobody in it, right? So team Jane Doe is empty. So this still has an exercise environment associated with it, but there's nobody in the team. And so what I can do here is I can delete that team. And now I've cleaned things up a little bit, right? I have 2 students that are in the same team, and exercise environments are actually not associated with individual students, they're associated with teams. So so now I can now they've I've put these people together, and I've gotten rid of the extra superfluous exercise environment. Now I could go back and create that thing again. So if I go to add new, up in the upper right hand corner here, there's an add new team to this course. I can put in a new team, and I can call it team, who did I move? I moved Jane Doe, team Jane Doe, confirm. Now I've got a new team Jane Doe here at the bottom, and if I want to move Jane Doe back into her own team, I can just do that. Okay, so that's teams. So now you see that each one of these people is back into their own team, and you can name teams however you want. We just happen to use the person's name because it's easier to keep track of. Okay, that's it for the users page. Wow, time flies here. Okay, understanding the exercise environment page. So I'm going to back out a little bit. Now I'm going to go into a different course. I'm going to go into the Virginia Cyber Ed Conference CTF Tools page. And I'm going to click on the environment Kali Linux virtual machine. And here I'm at this virtual environment page. And I can see my copy of it here at the very top, and I can click the start button and start the exercise environment, and then I can click the play button and I'll join the exercise environment. I can click the reset button if it's broken. So that's what, so these buttons for students, all they get is they get a start button. They don't get a reset button. So teachers get reset buttons. If a student breaks their virtual environment or if it's not working, sometimes something doesn't get provisioned quite right and the environment doesn't work. If the teacher clicks the reset button, then basically the environment is thrown out and a new copy of it is created from scratch, and now the student can jump in and start using it. So what I see here in the on the exercise page is I see each one of the students, right? Each one. I mentioned that exercise environments are associated with teams, not with individual people. So you'll see the exercise environment for each team. And usually that corresponds one-to-one with an individual student. And on the right here, you see some statistics about that particular student's exercise environment. And this one, for example, says it was used for an hour between 2018-09-05 and 2018-09-05. So on that one day, this thing was used for an hour. So the first date is the first day that exercise environment was used, and then the second date is the last day that it was used. Team Andrew Marshall, this student, he used the exercise environment for a total of 14 minutes between the 14th of August and the 27th of August. Another student in the course used the exercise environment for 44 minutes between the 14th and okay, so he only used it on the 14th. So this, I mean, this just says, you know, so if, I've had instructors who say they use this in a situation where, you know, a student says, hey, I worked on this thing for hours and I couldn't figure it out. And you can look in here and say, oh, well, this says you only were in here for 20 minutes. Or they'll say, oh, I started this exercise environment back on the 1st of August. And you can look in here and see, well, gee, this says that first time you used it was last night. So kind of helpful for understanding usage. You know, another reason this is helpful is you might see that, you know, some students take 8 hours to do a particular exercise and some students take, you know, 45 minutes, and then that might sort of give you an indication of you know, whether a particular student is having difficulty or not. And then up in the upper right hand corner, you can edit the exercise, right? So if you want to change the name, I can change the name, I can change the description. I can also, let's see, this thing is available until December 31st, 2018. Maybe I want to set it so it's only good until the end of this week. So today's September 11th, and I don't want students to be able to get access to it after Friday because this assignment is due on Friday and they don't need to get access to it anymore. So I just changed the end date for the exercise, and then I hit confirm. And it's taking longer than I would expect. I found a little glitch here. There we go. Now the description has changed, and I see the exercise availability. It's going to be only available until this Friday. All right, so that is it. Yeah, that's it for the exercise environment page. Okay, so I got about 8 minutes to talk about exercise environments, and I'm only going to take about 5 because I'm going to point out how to get more information about the exercise environments. I'm not going to describe all of them in detail, although I will give sort of a high-level description of them. A couple of different ways to get detailed description of the exercise environments. One way is to go to the course. So here I'm at Virginia Cyber Ed Conference CTF Tools course, and if I click on the Add Exercise Environment button, I get this pop-up that says Create New Exercise Environment. When I click on the Environment line, I get the list, right? So these are all the different exercise environments that are available to me. And if I click on one, so here I'll click on Ubuntu with Snort and other tools. And this gives the title and it gives a description. This virtual environment is a standalone Ubuntu Linux virtual machine in its own subnet and includes software and artifacts to conduct exercises on password auditing, buffer overflow, firewall configuration, intrusion detection, and basic cryptography. Login credentials for this virtual machine are student/ECE5586-login, right? So this is a VM that I set up for a course that I teach at Virginia Tech. And so this gives the short description of the exercise environment. And then if I click here in the middle of the page, there's a link that says exercise environment description. That link is only available to instructors. It's not available to students. If I click that link, it takes me back to the virginiacyberagents.org website, and it has a more detailed description of this environment. So again, it gives this short description again, gives the login credentials. And then here at the bottom, it has a list of corresponding exercises. So this virtual machine includes software and artifacts required to complete the following exercises. And then if I click on this one for password auditing and buffer overflows, for example, I get to the web page, I get to the exercise environment page that describes that hands-on exercise. And if I log in to the courseware repository, I can download that document just like any other exercise in the Virginia Cyber Range courseware repository. And it's a Word document. And so now I can edit this thing or add tasks or remove tasks. And then at the bottom, there's a answer key to the whole thing. Okay, so that's one way to get more details on each one of these exercise environments, right? You click on the environment line in your create new exercise environment little dialog box, you select it, and then you drill down and you get a description of it. Another place where these exercise environments are described is in the knowledge base. So if you click on the upper right hand corner and go to the knowledge base button, you'll see there's a resources section of the knowledge base. And if I click there, there's one article, and the article is the exercise environment catalog. And what you have here is a description of the various exercise environments. So here's Cyber Basics description, for example, gives the description, gives the corresponding exercises, some additional information, and then here's the next environment, forensics description, corresponding exercises, and then another environment description, right? So this is where you can get information about the different environments, and I'll talk briefly about some of these environments. First, Cyber Basics. This is the environment that has 4 virtual machines in it. It has a Kali Linux virtual machine, and it has a handful of virtual servers that are very good for introductory to intermediate, cybersecurity hands-on exercises. So this is probably the best environment for most folks to use. If you're teaching a digital forensics course, the forensics lab environment is really good. This one is, if you're familiar with the SANS Institute, they do cybersecurity training courses, and they have some very good digital forensics courses, and they use this standard SANS digital forensics and incident response Linux package based on Ubuntu. And so this forensics environment has this digital forensics Linux virtual machine, and it's got a whole bunch of digital tools for conducting digital forensics. And then it also includes digital artifacts like some hard drive images and other stuff that you can use when you're teaching this kind of a course, or when you're doing the hands-on exercises that go along with that environment. Ubuntu with Snort and other tools. Again, that's the one I just talked about. I created this for a course that I teach at Virginia Tech, just to give students a little bit of basic hands-on with some stuff like intrusion detection and firewall configuration and password auditing and buffer overflows and encryption technologies. And there's some exercises that go along with that. There's a plain vanilla Windows virtual machine. If you have hands-on exercises where you just want students to start with a plain vanilla Windows box and you want them to use it to do different things. You can provision one of those. There's a standalone Ubuntu Linux virtual machine. Again, it's sort of a plain Jane Ubuntu install if you want students to start with that. And then you might have them install specific packages and then download artifacts and start doing hands-on exercises. There's a standalone Kali Linux virtual machine, and then there's some standalone laboratory exercises, right? So up above here, these are laboratory environments, and there's a handful of them listed here. There's actually a couple more than this. If you go to the exercise environment and click the Add Exercise Environment button, you'll see a couple of additional environments that aren't listed here. But at the very bottom, there are laboratory exercises, and these are environments that are set up for some very specific exercises. One of them is host-based network security basics. Another one is okay, so that's part 1, and then host-based network security basics part 2. So this is a little bit more advanced network security, host-based network security. And then there's a compromised server security and lockdown laboratory exercise at the bottom. And each one of these hands-on exercises have corresponding documents in the courseware repository that you can pull down and use in your class. And we're at just about an hour, so I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to ask if anybody has any questions. And you should be able to unmute yourself, or you can just type into the chat window. So if anybody has any questions, I'm going to stop there for the week 2 workshop. Took a little bit longer than I anticipated, but if anybody has any questions, please jump on the chat and type in a question. I'm happy to answer whatever. I'm going to give it just a quick few more seconds because I don't want to keep people waiting. Okay, so I don't see any questions coming through, so I'll keep this up for a few minutes in case there are any questions. But so what I'll say is thanks to everybody for participating in the week 2 workshop, whether you are here in person or you're listening to the recording later. Next week we're going to drive on with doing some just sort of walking through. I think next week we're gonna just walk through an example of how you can use the Cyber Range in your classroom. And so we'll do a little hands-on exercise together, or you can go back and do it yourself later. But we'll kind of walk through how you might approach something like this in the classroom. Using a lesson from the Cyber Basics content, and then combining that with a hands-on exercise, and so not a bad way to approach some of this stuff. So thanks again for participating, and I will see everyone next Tuesday at 1 p.m. Thanks.